India's semiconductor ambitions are gaining traction with plans for the country's sixth chip facility. It's a $435 million joint venture between India's HCL Technologies and Taiwan's Foxconn. Now, while there is much recent focus on creating a semiconductor manufacturing industry from the ground up, India already has a robust fabless scene with 20% of the world's chip designers. So can India-Taiwan tie-ups build on this legacy to make India a semiconductor superpower? I'm Divya Gopalan, and you're watching Connected on Taiwan Plus. To get a clearer picture of India's fabless industry and its potential, we are joined by Aswini Kumar, a researcher at National Chengchi University's Taiwan Center for Security Studies in Taipei, and from Bengaluru in southern India's Karnataka state, Sunil G Acharya. He is the senior consultant with Semiconductor Fabless Accelerator Lab, or SFAL. He's also a senior advisor to Karnataka's Digital Economy Mission. Thank you both for being part of the program. I'm going to start with you, Aswini. Now, much of the current discussion or the focus has been on manufacturing and building fabs, but we'd like to take a look at the fabless sector or design, which India actually is quite a leader in this space. Can you give us an idea of the extent of where India is at with chip design?
Thank you so much for having me. That's really a good start question. So to start with India, we have been seeing that India is already an established partner in this design tech sector. India is already designing 20% of the world's design sector is actually in India. So India has already established the design sector in the in the territory. So that is like give a big strategic opportunity for India.
Okay, so to build on that, Sunil, first let's start with your organization, the Semiconductor Fabless Accelerator Lab. Can you tell us how that fits into India's semiconductor mission?
Sure, thank you for having me. SFAL, or Semiconductor Fabless Accelerator Lab, was actually founded in 2019. The initiative was primarily was driven by the industry folks, with the support of the government, set up this Fabless Accelerator Lab. The intent primarily is to promote semiconductor design as well as electronic systems design. The reason this came about, to add to Ashwini's earlier point, is, Bangalore has been a hub for semiconductor design companies right from, say, 3 to 4 decades ago, when Texas Instruments first set up their operations here. And we've been fortunate enough to have several of the world's largest chip majors coming in and setting up their, in those days, offshore development centers, or you could call them, design capability centers. And because the ecosystem has already been existing, the industry came together, and the intent is again to enable the fabless ecosystem in the state as well as in the country. And SFAL has been doing quite well in the last 5 years, been able to impact more than 100 companies. We have got 43 companies in the pipeline. We have enabled designs of chips which are simple, starting from what you could call application-specific ICs, all the way to complex microprocessors. So SFAL has been enabling the ecosystem by both supporting startups as well as working with very large companies and academia to bridge the gap between it.
So now give us an idea of who is commissioning the designing of these chips, and then once they're designed and manufactured, where are these chips normally used? Is it within India, or is it sent to international markets?
Good question, Divya. See, there is a history to this. Traditionally, 3 decades ago, when companies started coming here, the design of the chips was primarily done for the headquarters, which is usually situated in the US, or in some cases, Japan, and several other countries. Over a period of time, that evolved to companies offering what is called design services for large organizations. And today, what we are looking at is designs of chips, both for the local market and for the international market. Some of them may be localized for specific consumption within the country, but predominantly most designs are done to cater to the global market.
Okay, so before we continue, I want to take a look at some of the figures and the standings here. Let's take a look at the top 10 fabless companies worldwide from TrendForce. That's a Taiwan-based high-tech market research institution. Now, as expected, NVIDIA leads the list, followed by 3 other American companies, Qualcomm, Broadcom, and AMD. But there are 3 Taiwanese companies, MediaTek, Realtek, and Novotech, straddling the rankings, while China's biggest fabless chipmaker, Will Semiconductor, is placed 9th. The question now here is, how many of these global firms have a presence in India? Let's take a look. According to India Partners, that's an early-stage VC fund from India, each of the world's top 4 fabless players, NVIDIA, Qualcomm, Broadcom, and AMD, all have footprints on Indian soil, while Taiwan's MediaTek and Realtek are also present in India, along with South Korean giant Samsung and Japan's Toshiba Semiconductor. Now, back to you, Sunil. India's fabless chip market is still small, with revenues under 50 million annually. What is it doing to scale the sector to compete with hubs like Taiwan or Silicon Valley, or is it nowhere near there yet?
Yeah, so firstly, I think those numbers are accurate in terms of, because of the history where predominantly most of the chip designs were made to support larger organizations, you don't see the numbers. However, to Aswini's early point, I think the Semiconductor Association International, which is SAI of the US, has estimated more than 20% of the world's chip designers are located within India, and a lot of them in close proximity to Bangalore, Karnataka. So to answer your specific question on what is the what are the state or the country doing to encourage or grow this ecosystem? Firstly, the government has rolled out several policies and incentives to basically take care of the long gestation cycle involved in semiconductor design. Unlike, let's say, software design, I think the biggest challenge with getting companies to do this is there's a lot of upfront investment that is necessary for things like EDA tools. And secondly, post-design of the silicon, since we don't have a manufacturing capability, which Taiwan, of course, has a huge advantage in that space, doing what is called a tape-out also gets expensive for startups. So the first thing that the government is doing and the industry locally is to support both startups and chip design companies to basically, let's say, indulge in this aspect of trying to do chip design. Some of the examples of incentives include the DLI scheme rolled out by the government of India. And the classic example is what Semiconductor Fabless Accelerator Lab, that is SFAL itself, is doing. Because the government has recognized the need for growing the ecosystem. And like you rightly or earlier pointed out in the beginning of the show, India has a huge strength as far as semiconductor design is concerned. So supporting startups, both in terms of availability of capital, availability of technology, incentives, and also market access and market outreach. So the governments, both state and federal, have started rolling out incentives, and we are beginning to see the results of those. The other aspect, of course, is being able to consume what is produced. The government is also looking at, especially in the strategic and critical sectors, whether the Make in India initiative can incorporate some of our chip designs.
Right. So Aswini, I want to flip that around and ask you, Sunil spoke about what the Indian government is doing to attract these companies and to create those international tie-ups. And international tie-ups are one of Taiwan's strengths. That's how its chip industry has managed to grow. What kind of overtures are you seeing from Taiwan, though, towards India? Not in the hardware space. We hear all about how Taiwan is party to India's manufacturing ambitions, but when it comes to design, what kind of partnerships and overtures are coming from Taiwan?
So when you see the partnership, particularly on the design sector, Taiwan's MediaTek is actually companies in Taiwan. They are trying to have a close collaboration, especially particularly focus on R&D collaboration with Indian fabless firms. Particularly, like one of the major trend right now going on is MPW, which is like multi-project wafer. So Taiwan companies are trying to provide access to the multi-project wafer service for prototyping for the fabless companies in India. That kind of create a big drive for the Indian companies to make cost-effective chips. So there are so many, there are industry to industry collaboration between Taiwan and Indian fabless companies. And also, like Taiwan, also not only the government side, some organizations also creating kind of a business matchmaking platform for the companies, particularly Indian startup companies, to have the visibility known to the Taiwan so that they can attract the investment. Recently, in the Computex 2025, there was a special program on Twin Society, which is Taiwan-India Society. In that, they invited some companies, particularly startup companies from India, to visible to the Taiwan audience, and then they are trying to make some collaboration between these two sides.
What is the attraction for Taiwan? And I understand a lot of countries are courting Taiwan due to its the access to its manufacturing. So what is the attraction for Taiwan to be partnering with India on the design space?
Thanks for the question. So the main attraction is the talent pool in India, because India already established the strong design sector. So engineers in India, they have already showcased the design capability, and particularly because Taiwan right now, everybody is focusing on the AIoT, artificial intelligence of technology, which is like integration of both IoT and AI. So right now, many companies startup companies and many design companies in India are focusing on that. So that kind of gives the Taiwan company to have a strong collaboration. So the main 2 points is that the India could provide talent, high-skill talent, and also the more innovation that Taiwan companies wanted to have, kind of a symbolic relationship between two sides.
Sunil, you wanted to jump in there?
Yeah. I just wanted to add a couple of things. What we are seeing, why Indian companies, let me just kind of flip and play whatever your question primarily was. What is it that Taiwanese companies look for, and what is the collaboration that is being offered? One key aspect of semiconductor design happens to be usage of what is called semiconductor IP. These are called IP cores, which are used during the design process. So there are two options. Either we develop everything which is on the chip, or we take certain modules or IP which is let's say designed. For example, Bluetooth IP is something that's a generic IP which needs to be incorporated. So what we are noticing is that both the larger companies in Taiwan, like MediaTek, who offer this IP available to even startups through their startup programs. We're also seeing startups or smaller size companies in Taiwan who have actually created IP in the design space, which can be incorporated in building the larger design product. So that is one of the areas that we are seeing. Second, to add to Aswini, in terms of being able to interface between the design team and the foundries, which are the TSMCs and other foundries which are in Taiwan, it makes it easier to have a partner in Taiwan who understands the ecosystem, because there is an aspect of the design process where the design has to be made manufacturability ready. So, doing what is called PDK, process development kits, etc. So, Taiwanese partners are, working with Indian companies to enable this process. MPW wafer is one part of it. The other part is if you're going to go commercial, because obviously, while traditionally Indian companies have been designing for others, today they are going into the focus of creating their own products, their own branded products. So they will need to own the IP which they create, and therefore they need a partner to go through the manufacturing process for pre-commercial as well as commercial production. And there is a lot of, opportunity to collaborate in that front. Now, the second question which Aswini answered about why is it that what is it that Taiwanese companies are looking for when they come to India? What is the advantage for them? One, of course, obviously, there is access to the India market. Now, I was at Computex recently, and we asked the same question to the Taiwanese companies. And their intent is a lot of the customers of the Taiwanese companies are moving to India. Now, in the value chain, what happens is you have component providers, you have semiconductor chip providers who provide to, for example, I don't know if I can mention the name. Let us take a Delta, for example, or a Foxconn. They have suppliers too. And these suppliers have two reasons to come to India. One is to supply their own customers. And the second aspect, of course, the availability of talent, which Aswini just mentioned. I think India has one of the largest AI talents as far as the software side is concerned. And the government, one of the other initiatives I missed mentioning earlier is several initiatives to develop highly skilled workforce, which is focused primarily on semiconductor design as well as semiconductor manufacturing. In fact, I think there was a news article recently where I think the Tatas have sent about 150 people to get trained in Taiwan. So this is another area where there is a lot of collaboration that is happening. And once that training has happened, these resources can be used literally globally, actually. And of course, the other activity the Taiwan, I think, teams are doing are language skilling in India so that they understand and are able to interface more effectively between the Taiwanese companies and the Indian companies. So I just wanted to add that there are initiatives, there are reasons why the Taiwanese companies are looking at India and Indian companies are looking at that.
And saying that, Aswini, Sunil mentioned a number of key points here, you know, being from especially the idea, the talent and training, which is integral, especially in such a young industry. Given what we've seen in Taiwan, you know, we've got the Hsinchu Industrial Park or Tech Park, where you've got academia, talent, training, incubation. What is it from that model that India can draw from?
That is really a good question, because when Taiwan started, when we look into the Taiwan's initial semiconductor industry setup, they actually focus on 3 AIG, which is academic, industry, and government come together and then started the industry. So that's the most important thing. So what India can learn from Taiwan is that first thing is that they have to find the strategic positions in India, which they can connect all the important players. For example, like they can create the chip corridor, which is like focus on the designing company, which is already in India, so that they can connect the different parts. Like now in the Dodera, they are starting the fab, and then in future there could be a Assam. In Assam, they are focusing on the OSAT, so that India can like leverage this, how they can connect the alliance and then make it more like a chip corridor. That is one area they can focus. And also the other thing is that when it comes to the like India can focus on having more industrial and academic training program. So they need to like make it more like a curriculum based renovation, so that the graduate students who studied in the university, they can straight away get the first-hand experience in the companies, in the industries, and then once they finish graduated, they can straight away go and join the company, so that they can renovate the academic and then innovate the curriculum program. That will give advantage for India's semiconductor mission. That is one thing. And then the most important thing, that is the academic industry, and most important thing is that government intervention. India is already in the right track of implementing the right policies. And also major thing that India has to realize is that they have to make sure the state and central relationship is strong in this aspect. When they are choosing the strategic points in a different state, how Indian government can make sure that all these different states work together for the one single mission. That's the most important thing.
Plenty to think about there, but sorry, jump in, Sunil.
Yeah, so I think a lot of good points Aswini made, but I do want to paint the encouraging figure or picture that all these have been done. We have semiconductor parks and semiconductor corridors. The Indian government, including the Ministry of Electronics and ITs, has looked at the complete value chain, including supply of raw materials, creating partners through the supply chain, in keeping in mind future requirements of manufacturing. The government of India has developed what are called electronic manufacturing clusters. These clusters incorporate everything, including industry, infrastructure, and also connection to very senior or very large or world-class academic institutions. As far as curriculum is concerned, the government of India has already rolled out a semiconductor engineering-focused program. Of course, some of these will take time to roll down. The other focus area in terms of state and center is, I think, we have, I can be a testament to the fact that the government of India has been extremely supportive of what the state of Karnataka has been doing. Especially, we are into semiconductor fabless design, and we are not an academic focused organization. We are primarily a commercial business focused organization. And we have received support through the design linked incentive of the government of India, which is a central program. The first 5 companies almost are all from which is a Karnataka-based incubator. So we are seeing a mindset which is more collaborative. In terms of bureaucratic hurdles, I think it is more, and I have been on multiple panels, especially with Taiwan, folks to explain that this is basically, I think, something that has been happening in the past. But as far as the current, both the IT as well as the electronics and semiconductor focused activities in the country are concerned, there is a lot of synergy between the center and the state because they understand the strategic importance of the semiconductor sector. So we are seeing a lot of positive development, including the alignment of state policies with central policies. I am directly privy to those policies. I see those policies, we provide input to those. And I would say it's a very optimistic picture that, I think the governments understand the importance of alignment and basically getting the triage, that is the industry, academia, and as well as the government on the same page.
Can India become a semiconductor superpower in the near future? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below and click the video beside me for a discussion on how India can catch up with China in terms of chip designing, capabilities and facilities. And subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell if you don't want to miss more stories on tech and business from Taiwan.